Hey there, how are you? Today I'm going to show you my second and third cutting board. I only ever made 3 cutting boards before. I'm still new to this woodworking, but I've been having fun with it. The first cutting board was with this piece of cedar and some oak from a neighbor. I recently cut down oak tree, so it's okay, but it didn't turn out too well, primarily due to the wood not being dry enough. But here we got a good dry piece of maple and some cedar that we're going to try again and make a checkerboard pattern this time. Stick around and watch how bad this cutting board turns out. I try not to make a habit of talking too bad about myself or anyone else for that matter, and stay positive, stay encouraged, but I'm not gonna lie to you, this cutting board that I'm working on here, it's not great. It is not good at all, and there was not much that I could do to fix it to make it appealing to anyone. My wife told me how bad it was. There's no sugarcoating. So here I'm just cutting down this maple I purchased in Pensacola, downtown Pensacola, Florida, actually. So I just went to Google and searched for some hardwood slabs and went to the place. Probably not the best place in the world you can go to, but it works out for me. Not a bad price. Not that I'm used to buying hardwood slabs, so I don't necessarily know what the prices should be. But I picked up this red cedar and the maple. Like I said, my first cutting board, it was this cedar and some oak. And that oak was actually from, like I said before, the tree a couple doors down that was recently cut down. So cutting board came out looking great. And after a few weeks, it's not looking so great anymore. The oak is shrinking out. And I could probably go back and make it look a little bit better, but really I'm just practicing at this point. I'm not selling these cutting boards. I'm not making money off of it. This is just a hobby. I'm not the best at it right now anyways. I'm just having fun. And here is where I ultimately screwed up. Obviously I did not know I was about to be screwing up at the moment, but looking back over it, this is where I screwed up. If it was glued right there in the position that I have it in, that would be good. It would have worked out. But you see, I am studying a pretty good bit of time on this, and like my mom tells me, if you study long, you study wrong, and that's exactly what I did. I did not think that through. So laying the glue here forces me now to turn these boards sideways and put the pretty side up. But these boards were really crooked. The maple was severely crooked. If you kind of see a couple of these, they're not flush. They do not line up flush with each other. And I noticed that, but I thought that the clamps was going to make everything better. It was going to tighten it all down. So we'll see. I did not know at this point in time, but I knew that it was worth a shot. We'd see. Be back out here the next day, take it loose, check it out, see what's going on. At this point, I'm thinking it's probably good. Everything's all good. I'm starting to notice a little bit of cracks in here, but I'm thinking it's all fine. Nothing a little planer, a little sanding, some things still can't fix this. Just go ahead and chop off the ends, and then really see what we're working with. Still, at this point, I should have known. And I kind of feel like I did know, but wasn't ready to give up on it just yet. Figured I would just go ahead, cut it down to the strips that I need, and glue it up again and see what it is. At this point, my blocks are falling apart. And I can't blame the glue for that. Everything that the glue was supposed to be doing, it did. That tight line 3, that's some good stuff. As you can see here, when it comes to lining it up, there's cracks and gaps and things that I couldn't ultimately depend on the glue to correct. If you got any tips or tricks in this, you make a jam up cutting board yourself, please feel free to leave me some advice, some hints, something in the comments to let me know what to do on my fourth one. Again, this cutting board here, this is actually the second one that I'm working on. The first one in a checkerboard pattern like this. So I'm learning as I go. And I'm maybe just like you, I'm watching YouTube also, learning some tricks, but I'm at the same time I'm doing things on my own. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm watching other people do this on YouTube out of learning, but entertainment, really. Hopefully that's why you're here. I don't know that there is a whole lot that I'm able to teach you here. Maybe I can show you what not to do. If you're here to learn anything right now, tell me that in the comments. Tell me that you have learned some steps to not take while I'm making this cutting board. So at this point, I'm trying to fit any blocks that I can in any position that I can. But check this out. I was talking about that tight bond. I don't know if you were able to see this, but I take a pair of pliers and a hammer to this wood, and right there, look over to the left side of the corner, you can see the wood is broken. I thought that was pretty cool. Instead of coming apart at the seam, the wood broke. So yeah, that can't blame the glue for any of this mistake of a cutting board, I guess. But whatever. Again, not trying to be hard on myself, but at the same time I'm trying to learn, and the mistakes and the bad outcomes is where I learn. And again, if you got any advice on what to do better the next time after you see this third one, like, I'm not saying that the third one is the best cutting board ever, but give it a shot. Also, stay tuned and watch it. This square ratchet strap, I think is pretty cool. It kind of come in handy here. I mean, I guess it didn't help a whole lot, but it did what I wanted it to do. Got it from Harbor Freight, and yeah, out of everything you see in this video, all the different tools and everything, none of it is linked in my bio like you might find in a bunch of YouTube videos, but just ain't made it that far yet. So I'm sitting around 56 subscribers at this point in time. Maybe one day, you'll see some cool blue rags like this in my link in the bio. Maybe I'll start saying that kind of stuff one day, but not today. Again, the ratchet strap's pretty cool, but only thing I can tell you is Harbor Freight. That's where I got it from. Alright, so we got that all set up. Come back out here, get ready to take it apart and see what we got. Looking forward to it at this point. I gotta do better about getting glue on the wood between the boards that I'm trying to use to hold together and the pieces that I'm working on. I always get pretty stuck. Anyways, at this point in time, this is when I realize that, yep, this is no good. This right here is just expensive firewood at this point. I might be better off chipping it up and using it for cat litter. Maybe donating to someone's fireplace.
Other than start over.
I think that at this point in time, I'm kind of thinking that this right here is a really good representation of what is not good. So at this point, I figure it is the best point for me to go ahead and start over. These are the off-cut pieces. I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the video. And I'm looking at them and I'm realizing, this is where I realized what went wrong. This is how I glued it up to begin with. All the gaps inside of there, there's no feeling that. I mean, I guess you'd feel that with the glue, but you saw how the blocks come apart. They obviously was not glued up well. So I figured if I glue them up like this, it eliminates the gaps by a long shot, and we'd get a better start. If you wouldn't have started over, you'd have just kept going with that same old cutting board and think you could have made it better, let me know how in the comments. Got some offcuts from
a shot. See what happens. Need some glue. So I'm pretty sure last time some of these pieces are crooked. Some of the maple. So no matter how much I tried to squeeze it together, it just wasn't happening. So I'm turning them this way. I still feel like I have a little bit of a gap here, but I'm hoping we'll make that up with the clamps. Should turn out a little bit better. It won't be perfect. You know what I wish I would have recorded is my wife's reaction at that cutting board. She wasn't pulling any punches. She told me exactly how it looked. And it was hilarious. Like, it's just because I personally wanted to see how she would react to it. I could tell how terrible it was. I spent a lot of time. I didn't spend a whole lot of time. You see that these steps are not many. Just glue, cut. Didn't spend a whole heck of a lot of time, a few days, the gluing process. I typically like to keep it overnight, but still, that's time. So we got it all glued up now. Now we're about to go into cutting the edges off of it. See how it turns out. And I don't really have a plan with this. We're coming up on a part where you'll kind of find that I have no real plan. I have a generic idea about how to do this and what I'm gonna do, but I don't have any real plan as to each step to lay out. I just want to make sure it's straight for one. That's why I know my fence is going right off of one of these boards. I at least wanted to make sure that bottom one down there was as close to 90 degrees as possible. I figure if I get at least 89 degrees, it works out good. That's about how everything else turns out, is right at 89 degrees. So let's finish cleaning that up a little bit. And then we can cut down our strips. At this point in time, you probably notice that this board is not that wide anymore. And it's all right. Again, this is just practice. Nothing is measured out. I'm using the fence to make sure that I'm keeping my strips as consistent as possible, but I could not tell you how wide each one of those strips are. The cutting board's finished. It's made now. I hadn't even put a measuring tape to it to see. Maybe one day, if I'm doing this and trying to make cutting boards for people that ask for them or anything like that, if I ever get to that point in time, then maybe I'll measure it out and cut them to the size that someone may like. At this point in time, I'm thinking this right here is looking a lot better, but it is still crooked. There's no gluing at this stage. There's something I got to do. So I figured a planer will fix that problem. Pull it out and get everything down to as square as possible. Cut the jagged edges off of it. I don't know if you noticed in the beginning, but the cedar was a lot thicker than that maple. But then I actually took every strip of the cedar and cut it in half, which then made it shorter than the maple. So the maple was sticking up. But again, planer makes short work of that. Speeding the video up and cutting a few frames out of it also speeds this whole process up. So again, this was days worth of work to do this, primarily due to the gluing. So here we go. It all looks good. Well, obviously I see a big gap there, but it's all right because that's just on its side. When I glue it up and get it like this, it's going to look good. And at this point in time, I am ecstatic. I'm sure you can see it all over my face. I am super ecstatic about how straight and how good this looks compared to the last time. So at this point in time, we're going to start gluing. I know this video is getting to be pretty long. Most people don't like to watch videos on YouTube that's longer than 30 seconds or a minute nowadays. And heck, I don't blame them. I'm one of those people. I can go through 100 shorts but don't want to watch a 30-minute video. If you're still here, I just want to tell you I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. Matter of fact, if you're here at this point in time, 15 minutes into this video, leave a comment for me that starts with the number 15. I don't get a whole lot of comments on videos, period, but I just think that'd be pretty cool. Also, go ahead and like and subscribe to this video. If you're still here, I'd really appreciate that. Maybe you like the content that I'm creating. Maybe you've seen a couple of my other videos. Maybe you want to go check out a couple of my other videos. We're at 56 subscribers right now. I'm trying to get to 100. But each one matters. Each one counts. I really appreciate it. The subscriber counts won't go up one at a time. And I'm just as happy about it as if I got 10. So thank you for that. So again, remember I talked about this before. I got to start cleaning up my glue a little bit better before I clamp it down to some wood. At this point, I wasn't really worried about damaging it. I knew that I needed to run it back through the planer again, which is cutting into my height, but at the same time, I know that it'll give me a pretty good finish on it. Taking a little bit off at a time. I think I'm typically taking off about a 30-second at a time, which is quite a few passes depending on how bad it is. You see this is 1/16 to an 1/8 inch of excess wood, glue, whatever the case may be. So it's all right though. Again, I know I've said this probably 100 times now, but this is my third cutting board. All right, I hadn't mastered any style of cutting board. I know the checkered pattern is there's a little more detail, a little more work than some cutting boards. But heck, I've seen it on YouTube. I just wanted to give it a shot. I figured it couldn't be too bad, not to make light of anybody else's work or business. But heck, I'm doing it for the fun. You know, if you ain't doing at least a third of the things in your life for the fun, then what are we doing? All right, so at this point, it's all about just making it pretty. Need to cut the ends off of it, and you'll see I'm gonna take that fence out of the way, draw me a straight line, and just eyeball it. I have a little bit more confidence in cutting it straight myself. Oh yeah, we got to come back and round it over a little bit. It's all aesthetics at this point in time. At this point, I'm basically ecstatic about this. I think it looks so much better. I mean, I can see some flaws in it, and I'm moving fast enough to make sure you can't see any flaws in it, but I know that some of the lines are a little crooked here and there. The squares don't exactly match up, but hey, again, third cutting board, second shot at a checkerboard pattern. I'm happy about it. My wife thinks it looks a lot better. She complimenting it big time. Wait until you see the comparison now. Both of them, my second cutting board and my third cutting board compared next to each other. So much better on this one. If you're here, if you made it this far, I doubt that there's too many people that's going to hear this, but if you are here, leave a like and subscribe. I promise you the content can only get better. I'll get more creative, come up with new ideas, and craftsmanship will get better. If you can tell the difference between these two cutting boards